My name is Dennis McNevin and I'm an assistant professor in forensic studies at the University of Canberra. Forensic science is the use of science in the service of the courts. In other words, it's aspects of science that relate to legal matters. I'm an academic, so my job involves processes of teaching and research as they relate to the practice of forensic science. I'm a forensic biologist. Well, actually, these days I would probably call myself a forensic geneticist because forensics is borrowing from the field of genetics, and my primary role, or my primary research areas anyway, are related to the use of DNA in forensic scientists. This is the one here I'm particularly fond of. That's called a laser capture microdissection microscope. And the idea is that you look through a microscope and there's a laser and you can cut out individual cells. It's particularly important for sexual assault cases where you might take a vaginal swab. It's much easier if you can separate the male and female fraction. So you can look under the microscope, see the vaginal epithelial cells, see the spermatozoa, and cut them out and separate them.
Wow.
And then generate a DNA. To be perfectly honest, I don't watch the show, so I couldn't tell you. I just don't know. Well, there is a noted effect actually called the CSI effect, which is the phenomenon that juries and courts are under the misapprehension that obtaining a DNA profile is always possible in every situation and very, very quickly, to the point now that if there's a case that goes to court and there isn't DNA evidence, then the courts wonder why, and it may prejudice their view and prejudice the outcome as a result because there's no DNA evidence, which is, I guess, become the gold standard in forensic evidence. I think there should be general education around DNA evidence in courts because it is widely misunderstood. It can be difficult to communicate to the court because we present it in terms of a probabilistic strength of the evidence rather than saying this is a DNA match and therefore that person is guilty. We can't say that kind of thing. We can only comment on the evidence, and you can only comment on it in probabilistic terms. And judges and juries and other people involved in the legal process often get confused. I think it would be great actually if there was even a video that juries and judges and prosecutors and defenders could watch before a case goes to court where it involves DNA evidence. No, absolutely not. And there have been a couple of notable cases where that has happened and it's resulted in wrongful convictions. DNA is just one form of evidence like any other evidence. And the fact that we find a DNA profile, all that tells us is that it's highly likely that the person with whom that profile matches is the source of that DNA. It tells you nothing about how that DNA came to be at the crime scene or when it came to be at the crime scene. So it may well have been placed at the crime scene before a crime was committed, and it could have been transferred to the crime scene even though the donor wasn't present. For example, they may have touched a person or an object who subsequently went to the crime scene and the evidence was transferred via that third party. Yes, I think there has been a heightened interest in forensics as a result. This has been going on for about 10 years and it's resulted in a plethora of courses opening in Australia and around the world. The viability of those courses is now under question, and I don't think all of them will survive in the long term, and I think we're going to see a winnowing or a thinning out of those courses in the next few years, simply because there just aren't enough jobs for all those graduates. Forensic science is a science, and in particular it involves chemistry, biology and physics. So it really is imperative that you have a good basic understanding of one or more of those disciplines. It won't go astray even if you change your mind and you don't want to do forensic science. There's still a world of possibilities out there for you in other science disciplines.